We often hear that if you're waiting for your retirement to think about what your plan is for post-retirement, you're waited way too long. You should start thinking about your post-retirement transition 2 to 3 years prior to transitioning out of service.
The financial landscape for U.S. military personnel, veterans, and their families operates significantly differently from that of the civilian world. And here to talk with me about all that and then some is Dan Kunze. He is the host of Warrior Money. Dan, welcome.
Thanks, Bob. How are you?
I am great, Dan,
Yeah,
and I'll be even better after we have this discussion about what military personnel, their veterans, and families need to know about all things money.
There you go.
So I want to start here, though, with the news of the day first, right? Which is, according to published reports, the VA plans to reduce its headcount, plans to lay off somewhere between 25,000 and 35,000 personnel. And I'm curious, what does that mean for those in the military?
So not a ton of the folks in the military. If the VA serves the veteran community, right? So there's a difference in healthcare organizations between the military organization and the veteran serving organization. So I just want to differentiate the two real fast. We're living through a changing paradigm, I think, just generally. And what signals 20 to 30,000 people losing their jobs is that they want to shift care from VA facilities to private-public partnerships with integrating VA care with private healthcare as well. And I think that's what you're seeing here. So it's left to be seen what that means and how that actually impacts the near-term care of the veteran community. But I think the question is, what is it going to look like in 2030? And given that announcement, it sure seems to me like it's going to be a lot more private healthcare supporting VA veterans than VA-led healthcare supporting the veterans.
Yeah. So is that for the better or for the worse from your perspective?
I don't view things binary like that. I can't view things binary like that. I try not to do. I don't think it's a good lens because like things are different. We've got a healthcare system.
I mean, I guess I ask because people always say, what does this mean for me? Right?
Yeah.
I think for them, they don't want gray.
Yeah, I think that's the uncertainty part is the issue. I think we've got an aging infrastructure generally. We've got a World War II generation that's dying off. We've got the baby boomer generation that's like entering their golden retirement years. I'm a millennial, and we have different expectations for our healthcare than the generations that come before me. And we fought the 25 years of the global war on terror, and the healthcare demands of our country over the next 25 years when my generation retires is going to be significantly different than those of the World War II generation or the baby boomer generation. So at some point in time, you do have to make the changes based on the demographic conditions of the class that you serve. And I'm all for integrating telehealth. I'm all for integrating more modern ways of giving delivery and service. I'm all for getting closer to patients as opposed to farther away. And I think that there's service that the VA has to uniquely give veterans, like PTSD care, some of the mental health things, some of the physical things that happen in service. But I don't know necessarily why you have to go to a VA center for a regular illness or regular problem when there's a local urgent care or local facility near you,
right? Or
telehealth. So I think the question is like, how do we want to give service and who do we want to give it to? And what does that mean for the next 20, 25 years?
Yeah. So it sounds like in some ways, it's almost like a Medicare structure where I go to my local physician at my family office practice and they take Medicare. And instead of just taking Medicare, you'll take VA benefits.
I think that sounds that's right.
All right, so I don't have to drive into Boston anymore to the VA
I think
hospital.
Like the specialty care, I don't think so. Like there's some like the Penn Medicine in Philadelphia has a remarkable facility. Vanderbilt's doing some interesting things. Like Stanford does some interesting things. Like there's centers for each of these places that have like very specific skill sets or care specialties. I don't think that changes. I think that's kind of similar in the private institution as well. I think it's more like your routine care. How do we keep them handled most closely, most locally, and what's the best way to go do that?
All right. So you've given me some peace of mind. I think for a veteran, there's little to fear, perhaps.
I mean, it's going to be the uncertainty is always something to fear because that's how people think about things.
Right.
But
Change is hard.
Change is really hard, especially if you've gotten used to doing something one way for such a long time. I'm always 25,000, 30,000 people. It's a staggeringly big number too. and it just sounds big. The VA is a massive organization. I want to see how those cuts are actually enacted and where. And I want to better understand that the practicalness of that before I make a decision about how we talk about it.
Yeah. So my goal today in this podcast, Dan, is to empower the military family to construct a fortress of financial resilience that is robust enough to withstand economic volatility and agile enough to adapt to career transitions.
Okay.
But before we get to that, I want to hear more about your story because I think it sort of bridges into this goal.
Yeah, it's funny, we were talking before the show, and I started working when I was really young. I was like 9 or 10 years. I was 9 years old when I started working. I had a paper route. My paper route turned into a landscaping business, which turned into a snow plowing business. And I started.
By the way, my paper route business turned into quarters in a pinball machine.
So
I don't know where this is going.
So all these things started to grow on one another, and I was about 15, maybe 16 years old, and I heard about this thing called an IRA. Like I don't even know how I heard about it. Probably because my grandfather told me about it, or I probably read it somewhere. And I'm like, hold on a second. I can put $5,000 in this thing, and I never touch it again. And I'm 6 years old. Like, I don't know what the number is, but it's going to be more than it was today, and the taxes aren't going to take anything out of it. So I started saving for retirement when I was 15 years old. And I started doing my contribution limits when I was pretty young. And like, I had to get I got a W-2 job. The W-2 job was at Wawa. It was a hoagie place. And so I was making
best hoagies around.
I was making hoagies. I was getting paid, and I was contributing money to my 401k, my IRA, from a pretty young age. And that's kind of how I did it. And then I was fortunate enough to go work for some big employers, and they were helpful in the 401ks as well, and continue to contribute myself. And the military's I'm still on a pathway to have a military retirement as well. So these things are coming together for me, but it wouldn't have started had I not started really young with planting a couple seeds. And it's pretty cool seeing what those $5,000 seeds have turned into. What is that? 20 years ago?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
It's so interesting. It's time-honored advice. Start early and save regularly, and you'll be amazed at what.
I don't know how people that are my age now that are trying to save for retirement, I don't know how they save enough. Even at 40, I don't know how they save enough to get to 59 and a half or 60. Because like my runway, I had another 15 years runway. Like with all the expenses that I have and how expensive everything is, if I wasn't saving early, like my quantity, I'm not sure where I'd find the extra money to save more money.
Yeah, and the risk of starting later is that you have to increase the percent that you save
Correct.
to reach your goal.
And I don't know where
5 or 10 then becomes 15.
And I don't know where I would find that. At this point, I don't know where I would find that extra 20%, extra 15, extra 10%, or extra 15%, like with the cost of daycare, with all the other competing costs. I don't know where you find it.
Yeah. All right, so let's turn our attention to retirement for a second, then, since you brought it up, which is for military professionals. There's the thrift savings plan that they have. There's
it's like
blended,
a 401k.
Right? There's a blended retirement system,
Correct.
and there are pros and cons to that versus the legacy system. And then there's some tax optimization techniques that perhaps military retirees can take advantage of. So let's start with the TSP. What do folks need to know about that?
It's a 401k, it's the government version of a 401k. So I contributed to that as well when I was in service. About 6 or 7 years ago, there was a juncture between the stay in the blended retirement system or stay in the legacy pension fund. That was essentially it. I chose the legacy pension fund. A bunch of my brothers chose the blended retirement system. Mm-hmm. You can leave at a certain point in time in your service, say 10, 12 years, and you'll get a distribution when you hit a certain age. These are the 12 years that you've served. The rest of it doesn't come to you because you haven't qualified for the rest of it, right? That's where the 401k or the TSP kind of kicks in. So there's a blended retirement, and then there's the defined benefit plan that I was still enrolled in because I was at the juncture to move forward. Is that your question?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. In terms of actionable advice, if someone is in active duty now, they're in the military, save as much as you can. Like you've got the blended retirement right now. If you joined after a certain age, certain year, you have blended retirement. You have TSP. You've got 5 to 8 different investment options within your TSP. It's very similar to the way you think about I-bonds and some of the other things that we talk about. Like it's target retirement dates, government bonds, all those things are still available there. And they're low cost.
Yeah, they're super low cost. Yeah. And so it's like, do them both. And if you're getting basic allowance for housing and you're getting all the other things that you get in your military service, try to do your very, very best to stow away some cash, both for yourself, but also in your retirement. Like that's the way, that's just good advice for everybody. And the one thing that I was asked in the military all the time is, how do I make more money? Everybody wants to do it. How do I make more money? Some junior officer, some senior enlisted. And my answer to them was like, don't worry about making more money from investments. Like go figure out, like go make, because you only get paid a certain amount of money in the military, right? Like just contribute as little as you can into a retirement account or an investment account, and realize that if you stay in there for 20 years, you have 20 years of a very consistent paycheck that once you start to aggregate that a little bit, compound interest takes its role. That I think is the best advice that anybody's gonna hear. Just get started. $10 out of your first paycheck turns into $100, which turns into $1,000. Then all of a sudden you're 50 years old and you've got money.
Yeah. So unlike in the private sector, the government isn't matching your contribution. Is that fair?
There's a contribution amount. The TSP has a contribution matching program.
Great. And it's similar to what you might encounter in the private sector.
Yeah, it's the same.
So you might as well take advantage of the free money.
It's a 401k. It's the very same thing.
Right. And then obviously with a defined benefit pension plan, a lot of benefits come with that, which is to have a guaranteed source of income in retirement, or even prior to retirement, is a good thing. Or much of the research says that having that guaranteed source of income allows you to enjoy life a little bit better than someone who doesn't have a pension.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, most of my mentors that are retired tell me that the greatest thing that ever happened to them is they've got a small pension from the military, but they've got healthcare benefits. And the ability to continue those benefits post-service allows a lot of them to retire early because they don't have to worry about having an employer with the benefits.
Yeah. So when you think about retirees, military retirees, and how they can optimize their income stream in retirement, are there any tips or...
I'm sorry, say that again?
Are there any tips
for
when you're trying to optimize your income in retirement between your pension, your 401k, and maybe other sources of assets?
You're a young man or woman when you retire. Like the military is not it's not for most folks an older folks game. Like if you join when you're 25 and you do 30 years of honorable service, you're 55 years old. There's no reason in the world why you can't have another job at 55 years old. You're just creating the next phase of your retirement, what that next version looks like. But you have the baseline of a pension, you have the baseline of health insurance, and you've got whatever other VA benefits you've also gathered. And there's no reason why at 55 years old, if you wanted to have another job, you can have another job and remake yourself. And on Warrior Money, we talk constantly about finding your purpose. Like you do 30 years serving this country, you can spend the next 20 years serving your community. You can spend the next 20 years serving whatever it is you want to go do, but I don't think you can just sit at home on your couch and collect your pension checks. So I think you've got to relitigate your purpose.
Yeah, finding purpose, whether you're in the military or in civilian life, is always hard for people.
My dad just retired. I'm so proud of him. He just retired 2 Fridays ago. He worked as an electrician at a pharmaceutical company outside of Philadelphia. And I talked to him yesterday. I'm like, hey man, how's retirement treating? 2 days ago, I'm like, hey man, how's retirement treating? He was like, great. I was like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm at the Y every day at 8:30. The YMCA every day at 8:30. And like, I'm really glad. And he said, great. And I'm just like really glad that he found himself into some sort of routine 2 weeks out into retirement. Cause like, that's a lot of time that you have to figure out how to fill. And I was proud of him for doing that.
Yeah. So there's the routine, and also at the Y or any place like it, there's community.
Yeah.
So
community.
Which is the other thing that people need.
The party actually told me, he was like, hey, I run into your father. My father-in-law and he are both retired like the same time. And he goes, I see your father-in-law, his name's Kevin, at the Y every day. I'm like, no, I'm glad you two all better hanging out, having a good time at the Y.
Maybe they can brag about how many pull-ups they can do.
Whatever they do.
So, all right, you mentioned healthcare a second ago, right? We've got TRICARE. Maybe we need to think about that. We need to think about Medicare integration strategies. Long-term care planning. I guess there's some issues around long-term care insurance that military folks need to worry about, right? That there's a suspension of the federal long-term care insurance program, which could affect people.
That's news to me. I got to go learn about that.
Yeah, well, that's research I discovered. I'm hoping that you can prove it true or not.
I got to go figure that out. I hope that's not. I'm not aware of that. I'm not tracking that. But I think the
Let's start with TRICARE, I guess.
Yeah,
right?
I have a dear friend, Brian Masters. He's over at Fidelity Investments, and he's helping build this kind of a personal finance investment platform for the veteran community. And the thing that he told me that I knew, but I was startled to hear the numbers. There's about $250 billion that come out every year in VA veterans benefits. It's coming to the veteran community, right? And the benefits that you receive change based on the state you live in. So if you live in Pennsylvania, they don't tax retirement benefits from the military. If you live in Maryland, they do. If you live in other places, they do. So I think you need to look at the state a couple of years before you're about to transition. You need to look at the state that you're about to leave from. You need to understand what that ramp looks like, and you need to figure out what will get you what you need based on both your age, your VA benefits, your earned benefits from your military service, and your healthcare benefits, essentially. So I think there aren't a lot of great places to do that at. I think it's wise to have a financial advisor to help you navigate that.
Yeah. Dan, we're going to take a short break.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll pick up more on the topic of healthcare benefits.
Can't wait.
So don't go away.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to Decoding Retirement. I'm talking to Dan Kunze. He is the co-host of Warrior Money. Dan, before the break, I said I wanted to talk more about healthcare.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about what we would talk about today, you mentioned that one reason that you wanted to stay in the reserves is because of the healthcare benefits that would be available to you when you left service. That's a big deal for many folks.
Yeah, actually, so I mentioned this earlier, like most of my mentors in service have told me, like, you really want to stick around and get your healthcare benefits because they all last with you for the rest of your life. And that is the number one benefit that's consistently reinforced to me from the folks that have retired and they realize that they're in their 60s now and they're really, really glad that they did this extra 7 years. It's not the pension checks necessarily. It's really the access to healthcare that they care about.
Yeah. So when I think about healthcare in retirement, a couple things come to mind. One is that it typically represents anywhere from, say, 5 to 15% of your expenses in retirement.
Okay.
And it escalates as you age because of healthcare inflation and also because you need more healthcare. And the other is the massive amount of money that equates to for some folks. So it could be on the order of $200,000 of healthcare expenses for the average civilian.
Yeah.
But for you, it's going to be far less.
Because of the benefits.
Right.
Yeah, totally. And that's why I was surprised to hear with the disability. That's a feature that's been talked about quite a bit. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more.
Well, it's a long-term care insurance program.
Yeah,
so.
that's one of the ones that I'm gonna look into that because I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah.
That's one of the perks that's very known
and very valuable.
And very valuable.
Right. When you think about like people who might need long-term care, whether it's a nursing home or assisted living, those policies pay for a lot of the care.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to look into that because that was actually brought up that's been brought up multiple times as one of the quiet benefits that you don't realize that you need that become very valuable as you get older, as you age.
Yeah. When you think about healthcare in retirement, what are the things that you worry about or don't worry about?
That's a great question. What do I worry about? I'm kind of in the middle of I'm like in the middle of aging, I guess.
Yeah, you're not there yet.
I don't know how.
You haven't even put your face into an aging gap.
Yeah, I don't know how else to say this. So I got to give you just the lens of what I worry about now.
Yeah, or maybe your retired friends from.
No, I'm going to say what I worry about. Right. I worry about the collective miles that I've been put on this vehicle since I was 18 years old or 15 years. I don't even know how old I was. Like I remember spraining my ankle multiple times on ruck marches. I remember jumping off the top of or gently gliding down an armored vehicle. Like you don't gently glide down anything. These are just hard. They're hard things. I remember playing sports. I remember PT where you're just you're running 5-8 miles and it's just what you do. And you just don't know. What I'm learning is you don't know what you injured, that your body was just strong enough to compensate for when you were young, that becomes apparent as you get older. And I that's what I worry about. Like I'm worried, like I'm starting to see my friends, their backs are starting to get sore, their shoulders are starting to give out, or their knees are starting to give out, or hips. And that it's looking to me like it happens earlier. And it's just a collective wear and tear that you put on your body. That's what I worry about. With the things that I know I messed up my elbow. I know that I messed up my thumb. I know I messed up my shoulder. I know I did those things. I'm expecting those things, but I'm not ready for my left knee to start hurting. And I just don't know. I don't know where that's going to happen at. I don't know how it's going to impact my quality of life.
Yeah. So those are like invisible changes. There are some changes. I'll put another invisible change in there, which would be concussions. We talked about that earlier too, and people don't even know that they're being exposed to traumatic brain injury over time.
It's funny when you say that. Like I think about all the times you're shooting a 50 cal and you get jostled around in the top of the vehicle, or like you're not shooting a 50. You're maneuvering in the turret of a Humvee. There's a 50 cal and you get jostled around and you bang your head this way, or you hit the back of your head. You're always wearing a helmet, but even those like small impacts matter. And then when you do your training and when you do your combatives and when you do the things that are kind of contact or violent in general, you just don't know what that aggregates to. You don't know the small collective small things and what they turn into over time. And I wonder where that all goes. And like our healthcare is getting pretty good. Medicine's getting pretty good. I don't know how you fix that problem.
Don't look at me.
I don't know how you fix that problem.
Yeah.
I don't know how you fix it.
So that's an invisible problem, right? I mean, things like PTSD or maybe the visible problems are easy to deal with. I have a friend who was in the military. He's now outside in a civilian job, but he suffered hearing loss from having, shooting.
That's super common. Yeah.
Right. So he's out on disability for hearing loss.
Super common. It's you're hearing your knees and your ankles. At least from my like knees, ankles, and back. Like it's like it is and then visible for everybody that's not in your bedroom. Sleep apnea is a thing. Like there's a whole bunch of these other things that are pretty symptomatic of service.
Yeah. So as you think about all that, and then someone needing to access the healthcare system,
100%. And then that goes back to the original question though. Like, do I want to go if I've got a bad back or a bad shoulder? Do I feel like I need to go to a central facility in some city? Or can I go to the primary care doctor that accepts my insurance next door, or a telehealth because I know I have an issue, right? I think the math. It remains to be seen how we manage costs and cost structure as our population ages. And the 25 years of GWAT experience we have, there's a lot of people that went through a long time worth of needing care, and that's gonna be a lot of folks that are coming out over the next 20 years. That need some sort of VA benefits.
Yeah.
It's a lot of folks.
So I don't know what the life expectancy is of military personnel compared to the civilian population, but those in the military have what are called SGLI benefits or survivor benefit plans. Maybe talk about that and how that can play into someone's financial, picture.
Yeah, I mean, so there's survivor benefits if you die in service. That's there's when I was in $200,000 or $400,000 was the in-service benefit contribution. Then there's also in private insurances, the SGLI that you're talking about. So I had, and you always up it when we're about to mobilize, but like you always have the option to up that when you're in service. Healthcare lifetime benefits after service, I'm not aware of them.
Yeah. So for someone in the service, it's really vital that they have this because this is one of the basic building blocks of a financial plan is the...
I mean, even worse, it's like if you think about a mobilization and you're not sure you're going to come home, it's how your family takes care of you. Like it is part of a financial plan. More appropriately, it's like if a bad day happens, which is a higher probability, and you're not insurable from a private insurance company, the government's going to insure you so that your family gets to take care. Like, I don't know many state farms that are going to go insure you your lifetime benefits if you were to go in the middle of Fallujah in a bad time, right? The government will step in and make sure that you have the insurance to be able to provide something for your family in case you pass.
Yeah, and the rule of thumb, at least in the civilian world, would be 5 to 7 times your annual income. Say, for instance, I'm not sure if that's what you're getting a benefit for.
Mine was $200,000 to $400,000, but it's based on the different levels of it. So I don't know what it is now, but that was what it was when I was younger.
Yeah. Dan, we're going to take another short break.
Yeah, sounds great.
And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about VA benefits.
Okay, sounds good.
Don't go away. Welcome back to Decoding Retirement, talking to Dan Kunze. He's the co-host of Warrior Money. Dan, I said before we took a break that I wanted to talk about VA benefits a little bit more. And my understanding is that there's VA disability ratings that people need to be familiar with. What are those?
Yeah, good question.
I'm at a loss. I wouldn't pass a test on this, by the way.
Your veteran audience is going to know who this is, but for everybody else, I mentioned earlier that like when your hearing goes, your ankles, your hips, your knees, your disability rating is what gets you on a scale of how much benefit you get from the VA. So if you're 100% service disabled veteran, that means that you've hit enough points in the way that they assess disability ratings for you to get qualified at 100. There's a bunch of people that do 50. There's a bunch of people that have different degrees of it. I'm not always familiar with all the tiers of that. I don't know what sleep apnea gives you versus what hearing loss gives you versus those, but it's the collectiveness. In my buddy's expression, it's the collective brokenness that you got while you're in the military that comes together that contributes to your VA benefit, your VA disability rating. If you've lost a limb, there are certain things that you're going to be 100% benefits for. The most important part of this is making sure that you've established connection to service for the injuries or symptoms that you have, so that if it worsens over time, you can go get your benefits re-examined to look at a higher level of what your VA benefit should be.
Yeah. So I guess that leads to the next question is, how does someone go about maximizing their disability compensation? It would be to sort of document all that.
Yeah. Well, when you're in service, I had a bunch of non-commissioned officers that would tell me, hey man, like anything you do, make sure that there's paperwork for it anywhere. And sprain your ankle, just get the doctor's note, right? Like just have a record of it.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is any American Legion will help you. The American Legion will help you navigate your veterans benefits. And there's a host of private companies, private and nonprofit entities that will also help you. Profit and non-for-profit entities that will also help you navigate your VA disability benefits. And so I think the number one thing is like, don't go alone if you don't have to. Document what you need. Reach out to your American Legion or any other benefits kind of, and be good steward of that. Make sure that you're skeptical of who you go to, but make sure that you've documented what you needed to, and make sure you go to the right sorts of reputable places to get your benefits.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's an appeal process if you get denied.
Oh, and that's frankly, that's part of the reason why I think you should, my opinion is, have somebody that does hundreds of claims do it instead of you that does one.
Yeah.
And get somebody that knows how to do claims to go do the claims.
Yeah, this may be your first time, but you want someone who's done it 1,000 times.
Yeah, I'd really rather have that because they'll have all the relationships. They should have all the relationships with the liaison office and be able to manage it that way.
Yeah. So the other thing about disability benefits is that sometimes people are receiving both military retirement and disability.
Yes.
How does that work?
They're two different buckets of money.
Okay.
Two different buckets of two different things, right? You get your military retirement. That's the pension that we described as it relates to your time in service, and you can get the blended or the non-blended or defined benefit plan. Your disability rating is a completely separate VA benefit that you've received or you've earned because of the physical work that you did in the military. That's a whole separate rating and a whole separate allocation of dollars than what your military retirement is.
Yeah. Any thoughts about how people coordinate those two benefits, or just you get them and you get them?
I have a whole lot of opinions about that. Maximize your VA benefits, your VA benefits. Don't leave anything on the table there. Your pension, if you're a reservist or guardsman, you have to wait until you're 59 and a half. If you're a traditional 20-year, you're going to get it as soon as you retire. So you're going to get your benefits almost immediately. If you're a reservist or guardsman, try to get good years at the end of your career to reduce the age, because every good year you have reduces your age from 59 and a half down to a younger age. So you get, like, if you do the last 5 years of your career on active duty, you'll shrink that from 59 and a half down to 54 and a half. Mm-hmm. So you can optimize that way. And then also make sure that you've contributed to TSP, and then roll it over into an
IRA,
a traditional brokerage account or IRA account. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious. There's another thing. People serve for 20 years. They come out at whatever age, 55 or whatever age they might come out at, and they go into civilian life and get another job.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about this notion of how does someone maybe build their resume to enter the civilian workforce?
Man, we talk about this all the time on Warrior Money. We often hear that if you're waiting for your retirement to think about what your plan is for post-retirement, you're waited way too long. You should start thinking about your post-retirement transition 2 to 3 years prior to transitioning out of service. And then what we talk about is, like, if you've lived a life of service, where do you want to live? Like, what do you want to, like, where do you want home to be? Was it one of the duty assignments that you loved? Is an area where your family was that you want to move back to your family? Is it Florida because you hate the cold weather? Like, where do you want to live and what do you want to do? And then once you've done those sorts of things where you think about the structure where your life is going to be, then you start to think about, like, and this is the hardest part. What is the truth? What is my purpose? What do I want to go serve? Because it's really hard to go from feeling like you're serving something bigger yourself to being in your condo in Florida. So finding that purpose is what we talk about. And you have to do that a couple years in advance of your retirement from the service.
Yeah. When you're in the service, do you think that someone should, if they have the foresight, to think about what knowledge, skills, and abilities I need
100%.
in order to transition to that civilian job?
Everybody should do that. We talk about that. We talk about transitions all the time. Like, I've actually been super privileged to know a lot of people that have started their second careers while they were in their last year or two of the military. You can get a waiver. And the waiver says, hey, we know you do other business activity.
Yeah.
And you're cool with it as long as it doesn't conflict with your job. You're good. And a lot of the most successful people I know in the transition have something else that I would consider, like, we call it a hot side hustle, but it's something else that you do. And we live in a world, I think you and I would agree, like, it is not enough just to have one job for one employer. You need to have other opportunities to engage because you just don't know. Like, you just don't know.
So in some cases, someone might have the opportunity to go back to school while they're in the service and acquire a degree, perhaps, that they might need to move into civilian.
100%. There's a vocational rehabilitation program where you get paid to learn a skill that you need to be able to move into the skill set that you're required after the service. There's also the GI Bill, which is the traditional path of paying for one another. And I think, like, those combined paths let you do a lot of really interesting technical skills things as well as education things, and parlaying or extending your service into the next level of education is like a requirement. We talk a lot about that on Warrior Money. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me for a junior military officer to leave in their mid-20s, want to go into business, never have any business experience, and not go to business school for 2 years, especially if the military wants to pay for it. It's a benefit you get. It's a benefit you earned. Go get the credential. Go learn what you need to learn. Network your way into the next job and then transition that way.
Yeah, and that's no small task, right? I've got my day job, and then I've got to go to school, so I'm full tilt.
Yeah, I would say though that we have a lot of examples of your more senior military officers who are enlisted going and getting their executive MBA or a part-time MBA. Most of them already have a bachelor's degree by the time they get senior. Your earlier folks, like the transition of not doing an MBA but preparing for it while you're in service, then transitioning right into the MBA program, and then doing 2 years full-time MBA. It's a really good transition for somebody in their mid-20s to figure out what that looks like.
So for someone who's been in the military, they really never had to negotiate their salary once they get into civilian
They don't even know what a salary is, let alone, like, they know what they're like. They in the military, you just look at your
paycheck.
You look at your paycheck. You get leave and earning statement, and you look at that. It comes through. You've never worried about revenue in your entire. You don't even know what revenue is. You don't know what profitability is. You don't know what operation, like, you don't know any
You know
of
what your housing allowance is.
Yeah, you certainly know that. And to tell you the bad decisions that people make to increase their housing allowance, like, that's a whole different conversation. But, like, you don't know
having kids
or getting married to the wrong person.
Right, okay.
But, like, a whole lot of things.
All that.
But my point is, like, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know anything about, hey, maybe I'm going to get laid off if we're not hitting revenue numbers, or hey, maybe we're hitting revenue numbers, but our profitability isn't good enough. So we have to be, like, there's so much stuff that you're going to learn that you can't possibly know when you're in military service.
Yeah. So when you think about someone entering the civilian workforce, acquiring negotiation tactics.
Even know what to ask for.
Sorry?
Even to know what to ask for.
Right.
Yeah. Even not even getting a negotiation
But
yet.
someone
Like,
has to teach you how to do that, and
Yeah.
as well as anything else, right?
Yeah.
What is a management by objective or whatever the case may be.
there are great organizations that'll help you with those things, like Vets in Tech, Vets Coding. Like, there's a bunch of organizations, and then even your career counselors at your different MBA programs at different schools, they'll help you with some of those things. But like, so will your mentor network, and everybody knows that you can reach out to somebody.
You mentioned some employment resources. What about tax resources that people now need to figure out? Like, I guess I now have a W-2, and I've got to.
There's actually probably a good opportunity. There's probably a good business opportunity somewhere in there to create a nationwide veterans tax service that can look at all your different benefits packages, your state, your federal, and then bring them all together and optimize taxes. I personally use a tax planner, so I have an accountant, but I also have a tax planner, and I do that because I just have an awareness that my taxes keep getting more complicated, and the tax code keeps changing. And I think that more and more senior folks, like, if you just have a job and retirement and then another job, most people just need a financial advisor to help them sort through a couple of information. They don't want to make harder decisions. But if you start getting different income sources and different investments and different things, then they start thinking through it from a tax planning perspective.
Yeah. So we mentioned families a second ago. Military personnel who have families while they're in service.
Yeah.
What challenges do they face from a financial perspective?
Oh my God. I mean, a lot. So many of them. So many of them. So the first that I think about is what happens when you've got school-aged kids while you're in the military. And even before that, like, where do you take your kids to daycare? How do you pay for the daycare? If it's not provided by the military, where do you find private daycare in Topeka, Kansas? Like, where do you do those things? And how does your spouse work? What does your spouse's employment look like? Like, the spouse's employment is one of the most significant issues in our dual income economy. 24% of spouses don't have jobs. And I think the issue is we've tried to do our very, very best, but the nature of service suggests that it's hard to do in the first place. So the financial impact of asking spouses to do a lot, not unpaid, not having a great opportunity set to transfer skills between installations, moving every 3 years. Like, there's a lot of things that compound on it to make that a very hard proposition, which makes financial planning exceptionally hard. Because if one year you've got 80 grand, the next year you've got 40 grand because your spouse I'm just using easy numbers. It's hard to predict sustainably for where that goes.
Dan, we're going to take another short break,
Okay.
and when we come back, we're going to talk more about families and special circumstances for military. So don't go away. Welcome back to Decoding Retirement. I'm speaking with Dan Kunze. He is the co-host of Warrior Money. Dan, we were talking about military families a second ago, and just a personal story. My sister was married to a service member for many years. He served in Desert Storm. And she moved every 3 years from Hawaii to Berlin to Frankfurt, and she at the time was a daycare teacher and also raising a family.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just hard because you were moving from one place to another and trying to get reemployed when you moved from one base to another. And I could see firsthand the challenges that they faced as they were, she was trying to, be a contributing member to society by working and not just raising a family.
So. It's a huge issue that that every person I know. Well, first of all, I heard an amazing anecdotal comment once about how there was an honorary dinner in Japan, and one of the generals of the American forces came up to the wife of one of the Japanese generals and thanked her for her contribution to his service. And it was one of the first times it was the first time anybody had ever done that to her. And she got emotional as a result of it. And I often see spouses of very senior military officers, and they're the ones that you can tell they've got all these different notches on their arm. That's all their mobilizations. It's all the times that they've been deployed. It's all the work that they've done, and a whole bunch of ribbons. And I think about like that, all those little ribbons were 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months away from the family unit. And the spouse had to carry the weight for the entire time. And like the contributions that our spouses give is a remarkable feature of military service that I think you need to understand the nature of these folks to truly appreciate how hard that is. Imagine you're on a business trip for a week and your wife comes home and she's ragged. Imagine 18 months of a business trip to a bad place where you might not be able to talk to that person all the time. You've missed birthdays, you've missed holidays. Like, it's a very humbling, kind of on a rant here, but it's a very humbling like commitment that the other half of the family makes that we don't talk about often enough. Like, it's not something that we say. Like, we thank military spouses, we thank service members for their service, but we don't always ask the following question is like, how are you doing? And oftentimes it's a really challenging position to be in, especially when you're under-recognized.
Yeah. I'd like to take this moment to thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And ask, how are you doing?
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been the best decision. December 28th was the day I enlisted. It's
Happy
continued
anniversary. Yeah.
It is, yeah.
Coming up.
It continues to be the best decision I've ever made. It changed my life in more ways than I can count. I wouldn't probably be here talking to you about this if I hadn't made that decision. I found my purpose. I found my community. I found my friends. I found my professional calling. I found all the things that you need to have a gratifying and satisfying life because I made a decision in my early 20s that pretty much changed the trajectory of the life that I was on.
Yeah.
So it was the best decision I ever made.
I come from a long line of service members, my dad, grandparents, all the way back to the Revolutionary War. But I'm a slacker. The draft ended in 75 or so, and so I never got a number and never went. But when I was contemplating a career change, I was actually thinking about enlisting and applying to go to the DENFOS, which is the journalism school for the military out in, I think it's Indianapolis or Fort Wayne. I forget exactly where. But I never did it. I never made the transition into military service. So I'm a slacker, and I apologize.
No. We just appreciate having you on the show talk about it. No. It doesn't work if people don't. I mean, this is like, if you don't pay your taxes and you don't understand the value and the contribution of your like national security and protection, like you have a heart of gratitude. Like that's great. Like, not everybody has to serve. Like, and not everybody that serves needs to be honored put on a pedestal. But like, we as a society have to break down the barriers between the people that serve, the people that haven't served, and like understand that we're all on the same team. Like,
yeah,
we all want the same things. We want to be safe when we go to sleep at night. We want to feel like where we live is prosperous and wonderful and great. And I think that is what we all want at the end of the day. It's just the matter of how we get there.
Yeah. Before the show, we were talking about your service both in the Guard and the Reserves. Anything about that we haven't touched on that we ought to?
Service comes in a lot of shapes and sizes. So like, if your audience's grandkids are looking at serving, or their kids are looking at serving, or whatever, like if your son or your daughter comes up to you and says, "Daddy, I want to serve," my mom said, "Absolutely not. There's no chance. No way. Not my son." But I think as a good firstborn son, I didn't listen to her anymore. And I was like, "Hey, I'm going to go do this because it's important to me." What I learned when I was there is that every job, every institution is a platform to fulfill your purpose and what you want to do. The military is no different. You can serve in active duty, you can serve in the Army, the Reserves, or you can serve in a National Guard. National Guard's at home in your home state. Reserves can be anywhere. Active duty is where active duty is, and that's just across all the different services. You don't always have to be full tilt military if you want to be in the military. You keep your uniform on. You do your 1 week in a month, your 2 weeks in the summertime, and you call that a day as a reservist. And then if the country calls and they need you for something, you spin up and you go do it. Like, you can serve in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important for people to know.
Too late for me.
Get you a waiver. Get you a waiver.
So I have to tell you a quick story. My son was thinking about enlisting in the military. We had all the recruiters come to our house and talk about what would happen. And at the time, he was debating whether to go to military or to go to college. And I thought, well, maybe a good option would be a military college. So we went up to Norwich University with him, and we started the tour.
Yeah.
And among the things that they told him was that he would not be able to watch football on Sunday afternoons as a freshman. And that pretty much sealed the deal.
Oh, my gosh. What unit was that?
That was pretty painful. This was like 2014 maybe.
Yeah, man, that's not good.
So we stopped the tour halfway through and drove home.
That is not going to work for me.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. I'm sure there's some things we missed or just bears
That was a wide-ranging conversation. I appreciate it.
But anything we missed or bears re-emphasizing?
No, it was a great conversation. The only thing that I would say is a lot of people leave benefits on the table. They either leave them on the table because they don't want to deal with the aggravation of pursuing them, or they don't feel like they've earned them. Don't feel that way. Like go find somebody that can help you pursue your benefits. And just because you don't think you're broke today doesn't mean you're not going to be broke tomorrow. It's like physically broke.
Yeah.
So like go pursue your benefits that you've earned, and don't leave things on the table because people do that all the time.
So, I mean, people do it all the time, but it surprises me, right? When I think about my dad who was living in a retirement community, and they had a coffee klatch of people who would say this about Medicare or this about Social Security, and so it always seemed like there was a peer group of people who knew what to do. I'm surprised that like there isn't a similar peer group.
That's the purpose of Warrior Money. Like,
right. Yeah.
So like there's a collective group of people that are out there but in the military we call it a sea of goodwill. There's a lot of people out there that want to help people. It's really hard to sort to what is actually helpful. And then there's still like that silent warrior type that doesn't want help in the first place. And that's a very unique kind of group of people that's really hard to reach.
Yeah. And
then they're the ones that I think that I'm most concerned about. It's like if your care structure changes and you don't know where to find care and you're the silent warrior type, where do you go find your care at? So that's how I feel about that.
I always think it's helpful to show people who have done it successfly, and that gives them
totally.
the roadmap and perhaps even the inspiration.
I never knew anybody who went to college. I didn't have a huge personally. I didn't have a huge mentor network when I was young. So like, the only way I knew was to emulate the people that I thought were successful behind me, learn in front of me, learn their paths, make my own failures, then help people along the way. So,
Dan, thanks ever so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. So. So that wraps up this episode of Decoding Retirement. We hope we provided you with some information to help you plan for or live in retirement. And don't forget, you can listen to and subscribe to Decoding Retirement, as well as Warrior Money on all your favorite streaming platforms.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.